Everyone, welcome back to the Mark Loeffler Experience. We're talking property management today. We're going to talk about how to hire a property manager. We're going to talk about why Mark's going to go out on his own and manage his own properties. Some of the do's and don'ts, some of the tricks I've learned over the years, and some of the things you need to watch out for. So Mark has now decided that he is going out on his own, and I'm going to manage my portfolio of 200 units, and I'm bringing that in-house. What was the number one determining factor on bringing it in-house? Most people think it's money. And I'm literally going to tell you here, it's not. It wasn't money. It was more the fact that it's control. It's also scalability for me. So, and by the way, guys, I am not a control freak. I am like, go live your best life. Do what you need to do. Let's make a lot of mistakes and let's get this thing done. So that's how I roll typically. We need to be better at our maintenance. We need to be better at our turnover on our units. There's a lot of things that we can be better on. And when you're in a bigger organization, and like literally I was a third of their properties under management, yet I was probably only maybe a fifth, maybe 15% of their revenue. So maybe I got attention, yet is it as much attention as me hiring a full-time person to go ahead and now manage those properties and be dedicated to those properties, and that's all they're doing? Definitely not. Why didn't I ever do this before? So that's a lie. I have managed my own properties before. When I first got started, I had three properties with 6 rental units, and I was my own property manager. I was doing everything: the maintenance, the finding the tenants, dealing with the tenants, you name it, I did it. And what I found was, obviously I'm horrible at it. And it wasn't the best and highest use of my time. So that's why I hired a property manager. I mean, if you guys, well, Elizabeth Kelly's going to be on next week or the week after. And, we talk about if you can find somebody who does it 80% as well as you do, then hire it out. Just get rid of it, get it off your plate. And no offense, somebody could be a complete blubbering idiot and do it better than I was doing it. So I didn't set the bar very high, is what I'm saying. So and I found that my highest and best use was, number one, was acquiring properties. So putting offers in, seeing properties, working through the renovation, not working at the renovation, but working through what the renovation was going to be. So the big picture. Guys and gals, that's where you make money in this business, is putting the deals together, having the grand vision for it, and then going out and executing on that and having your team come in behind you and take that over. Number 2 was scalability. So obviously I was 33% of my property management company that I was dealing with. I was 33% of their properties under management. And they were growing, I'm growing. Guys, I'm looking at a 66 unit building right now. So, if that comes on board, so I'm going to probably be around 300 units by the end of the year, maybe a little bit more. And, I don't know how sustainable I am with their procedures and with their staffing and all of those things. So at some point, it was going to get to the point where they were going to fire me. There was no doubt in my mind that at some point they were just going to turf me on my ass. And they should, because at some point I become too big a pain and not enough reward. So I was expecting that. So, I've kind of been putting it out there for, I guess, since December, that I'm kind of thinking about this and I want to do it. I was going to start advertising for somebody back in February, then COVID happened, and I'm like, I'll take a back seat. And I was still talking to people about it. And that's how I hire a lot of people, is I go out there, I talk to my contractors, I talk to other agents I know, I talk to people. And I'm like, who do you know? I'm bringing my property management in-house. Who do you know is a great person that I should talk to? So out of that, I got like 4 people who got recommended to me. 2 I sat down with for interviews, and 1 person I eventually agreed to hire. And, I'm sure you'll meet Carol in future segments of this. and when we do property tours and that type of thing. And I have no doubt, Carol, you're going to be amazing. So, I mean, during the interview process, though, she did admit she wasn't a subscriber. So I don't know how long that's going to last. So if she's not a subscriber soon, you never know. So if you guys want to be a property, no, I'm joking. So guys, let's talk about hiring a property manager. When you should hire a property manager. If you're buying, for me, buying any sort of multifamily property, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, I would totally tell you to get a property manager. Because you don't want to deal with tenant conflict. You don't want to deal with the pettiness. And typically you have enough cash flow to pay one, and it doesn't affect, it affects your bottom line, yet it doesn't affect your overall cash flow. You still have cash flow coming from that property. What would I manage? I would manage a single family home. They're super easy. You re-rent them every couple years. Tenants seem to stay longer. They take better care of it because it's, they're the only ones living there, right? So they're responsible for that property, and they typically want to be there long term. So the average person who rents a home is going to be there from anywhere from 4 to 8 years. So there's a lot less management. They're obviously cutting the grass. They're doing all the snow removal, and some of the minor repairs sometimes too. So on a single family, I'd probably manage that myself. Maybe get a realtor to help you find a tenant, or find the tenant yourself. And yet on multifamily properties is when you get into, he said, she said from the tenants. There's more maintenance requests on the property because there's more wear and tear because you have more people in the same space. And I always went with like that multifamily. I was doing like my first properties were burrs, never even knew what the word meant. At the end of the day, I house hacked in Toronto. I didn't know what that was back in the day. And I just stumbled along and made mistake after mistake after mistake until 15 years later, I sit here with 200 units and I'm an overnight success. And, I'm sure that'll happen in YouTube too, where I'm like, oh, remember, I'll be talking to somebody, I'm like, remember the days when I was like telling everybody to subscribe so I could get to 1,000 subscribers because it's so hard, and everybody, hey guys, watch the whole videos because, I'm down on my watch time, and at some point I'll be sitting here saying, oh, hey, we need 1,000 subscribers to hit 100,000. And that'll probably take 24 hours or so, right? It's the exact same thing. We all go through that steps in the progression. You can manage up to a certain point, but it's when does it take out enough of your time that it becomes that you're not able to go acquire more properties? Or the other thing is, when is it such a burden that you're not able to grow your business? Because at the end of the day, you got to treat this like a business. So you need to be looking at like, what are you reading? So at first, I read a lot of real estate investment books, strategies, Don Campbell, Dulf DeRusse, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that type of thing, wealth books. And now I read mainly startup books and business books, management books, because I'm growing, like it's all a business. Sure, is there stuff I don't know about real estate investing? 100%. Like I'm not a developer. I know developers, so if I actually really needed to know about that stuff, I can reach out, I can pick up the phone and ask. Yet, I'm not a developer. I know I stay in my lane. I buy concrete buildings, concrete construction buildings, apartments, residential in Hamilton, Ontario, and I'm pretty good at it, I think. So I stay in my lane, and so it's, where the hell was I going with this, guy? So I guess I'm talking about highest and best use of your time, right? So if I can go ahead and pay somebody 8% of the revenue to manage that property we get, and it maybe makes it a break-even proposition. So that $160 to $200 a month, or that if $300 a month or whatever it is, if that allows you to go buy the second and third property, it's going to allow you to gain wealth that much faster because you're leveraging that time and that that model. So what should you look for in a property manager? So number one, they should own what they manage. So if they're managing single family to 4 unit to 5 unit properties, they should own that. If they're managing bigger buildings, they should own something like that, in my opinion, because then they're going to say, hey, here's the best practices we use in our business. This is what we recommend. If you like it, great. And by the way, if they have a big enough portfolio, at the end of the day, if you don't agree with their best practices, they're probably just going to tell you to, you know what, we can't help you and manage your building. I mean, there's a property manager in Hamilton who, I'll be honest, I probably chased him for 2 years to manage my properties, and he kept saying no because, well, he knew his lane. Number one, he managed a fair amount of properties, and his investors were continuing to invest and buy. I mean, so his workload was going up over time just organically, and yet he knew he couldn't take on my portfolio and do it at a high level that he expected. So, I mean, I respect, and that guy owned multifamily property, and he owned, like, so I respect that. So, you know, it's one of those things where you got to go out, and it's like the same with the, you know, mortgage brokers, lawyers, inspectors. They should own investment real estate. They should have that investor mindset. Contractors, if they have investment real estate, they're going to know where you're coming from. They're going to get where, you know, oh, you know, I mean, we're not putting this in there because, you know, it's a rental property. I mean, we're still going to make it super nice, yet, you know, we're not going to spend the $10 per square foot on the glass. You know, we can get $4 glass that for the backsplash that looks amazing, yet it just doesn't take it up that extra notch, but it still looks amazing for a rental. So, you know, these types of things. So guys, property manager, they got to be in the business. When I don't mean that they're in the business of property management, but they're in the business of real estate investing. What does their team look like? How scalable is their business? You know, how many people do they have right now? What systems are they using? I know a lot of us are using, like, I've talked to a ton of you guys. A lot of us are using Buildium. That's what I'm going with. So if you're using Buildium, actually comment down below. I might have Carol reach out to you guys, get some best tips and practices, because we want to roll that out. We want to do that on a big way. How scalable are they? If your goal is to go and build a portfolio of 1,000 units, can they grow with you? Or at some point, are you going to be like me and you're going to be a frustration and you're just going to have to go away? You know, if your goal is to own 5 fourplexes, you can probably grow with, the property manager will probably grow with you. Yet, if your goal is to own hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of units, then, you know, at some point you might start off and yet you might transition. It comes down to, a lot of it is personalities too. Can you work with the people that they're there, right? Because at the end of the day, property management is a people business. Number one, they're dealing with the tenant. Number two, they're dealing with you, and they're the in-between party. And a lot of times, no offense, as owners, we can be cheap. We don't see the advantage of, you know, that person paying $400 a month in a $1,300 a month apartment. You know, oh, somebody punched a hole in their wall. Well, I'm not going to run over and fix that, where the property manager's like, oh, we got to run over and fix that. So, you know, they're trying to keep two parties happy. And, you know, so whatever, that communication is key. Like, I'm not a big email fan. I've never have been. I like somebody who can just pick up the phone and say, hey, Mark, this is this, boom, 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 boom. I'll be like, all right, well, it sounds like we need to do it. Let's go. Whereas I get an email, and I'm like, oh, you know, and first off, email's horrible for me. So if you're trying to email me, probably not the best idea. If you want to reach out, comments are usually the best, or LinkedIn or Instagram. We'll put those in the description below. You can follow. And those, like, just DM me there, and I get back to all those, but email's not so good. So what is their communication style? If it's email, well, it's not going to work for me. But if you're all email and no phone calls, well, then that's going to work great for you. So what's that communication and that personality style? Because they got to work with you, and they got to work with the tenant. So, I mean, we're not doing this right now on property management. we're just going to get ourselves settled. And then, we haven't decided if we're going to, manage other people's units or not. I don't know for now, especially if we get that 66 unit. It's probably going to be a lot to take on right away. So, yeah, guys, I mean, sorry. Where I was going with that is that if I'm going to take on somebody's property, I'm going to interview them. So is your property manager interviewing you, or are they just taking on everybody? They're hustling out there, they're taking on everybody, because that's not a good thing either. Like the guy I chased for 2 years, it's not like he didn't want to take my properties, because I think he did. I mean, he did say that. I mean, maybe he was lying, I don't know. And yet he never did, because he knew that he couldn't handle that along with what was going on currently and how big his business was growing. So, I mean, that's what you're interviewing them. They're interviewing you. There's got to be a personality fit. So at the end of the day, guys, I think the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway I want you to have from this is leverage your time. When you're hiring a property manager or you're property managing yourself, that communication is key. You set that up front, how you want to be communicated to. And to be honest with you, that's the PM should say, well, no, that's not how we communicate, or that's how we can do that. And they should choose whether to work with you or not. If they're just saying like yes, 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 yes to everything of your demands, well, no offense, it's probably not somebody who I'd go with, just for the simple fact that they're going to say yes on the other side too, and you're going to say no, and then it's going to create conflict, and it's not a good idea, guys. So basically, do property management. It's good. No, guys, hire a property manager, especially when you're starting out. It'll alleviate so much of your workload that you can just go out and buy a lot of properties. All right, guys. Well, let me know what you guys think. Do you manage your own properties? Do you have a property manager? Do you have questions about like maybe what they do or maybe shouldn't do? Comment down below. Definitely subscribe. We're up to about 560. And if we get to 1,000 by the end of July, Mark's going to do Russian dancing. So we have about, I don't know, 37, 38 days right now. Actually, by the time this comes out, 35. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one, guys.